2 hours of sports talk excellence here in the Flower City. You found us in our new slot, or old slot, or whatever you want to call it. We are here talking sports with you here in the Flower City from the downtown High Falls studios. Sun is out. It's a great day here in the Flower City as we are happy to be talking sports with you. Give us a call at 585-866-4326. We're on 95.7 FM. We're on AM 950, always streaming for free inside the Odyssey app. And then we have this other cool audience that watches us, like Greg did yesterday, puts us on the big screen in his home. Hello to Greg and everybody watching on YouTube and on Twitch. Many ways you can consume the program. And, hey, I used to say this when we were 1 to 3. Hey, if it doesn't fit 4 to 6, or maybe you're a little busy, the Odyssey app, you can just go back and listen to the Rewind feature and listen at your convenience. Francesco in for Dandalorian today. He'll have everything in bite-sized form coming up. Just one guest on the show today, and he is a good friend of the show. Michael F. Florio, NFL Network. Certified card-carrying member of Bills Mafia, who is a fantasy expert. That's why the NFL Network hired him. So it's going to be Bills talk because he also hosts the Sick podcast with Stevie Johnson. It will be a little fantasy talk, too. And you better believe I'm going to ask him, hey, are you buying into this James Cook talk that he might get targeted a little bit more? So that's the case. Are we bumping James Cook up to a surefire first-round pick? Then also, too, hey, Mike, when I was talking to him last night, I said, hey, we can also talk about the Knicks and the schedule when they open up against Philadelphia. And then sure enough, yep, there they are. Called it. LeBron and the Knicks opening night, October the 20th. Don't wish your time away, but that's going to be coming up. They did release the Christmas Day schedule today, too. But Michael F. Flora, probably the biggest Knick fan we have on the show. I mean, I identify as a Knick fan. No. Michael F., he is based in L.A. now. He flew back to New York to just take in the parade. So we will talk to our expert, fantasy expert, Michael F. Florio, coming up here at the bottom of this hour. You can give us a call anytime at the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line at 585-866-4326. Award-winning barbecue from Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub, 135 West Commercial Street, East Rochester. GoodSmokeBBQ.com. The proverbial table is set. There are two stories for the Bills going on right now. One, and I'm sure we'd all like to, nod our head. Yeah, let's talk about what's going on the field, right? And we do have a preseason game. And, hey, this preseason game, you're facing an opponent that already has a game under their belt in Carolina. And we heard from Jim Leonard today, and we'll play some audio from the defensive coordinator a little bit. Yeah, you're a starter. You're going to be out there. You're going to be hitting. He wants to kind of get these guys ready for the season. Would I take that approach? No, but you know what? It's not my defensive unit here. This is what he feels he needs his guys to be ready here. And then let's be honest, too. Like the way the Bills rotate guys in on the defensive line, you're going to want to get guys that are going to see significant minutes, some action this preseason, I would think, on the defensive side of the ball. So we'll hear from Jim Leonard here in a little bit. But let me start here, because if you have a story that goes into day 2, it's okay. And not everybody gets to hear the show, including my friend Tim in San Diego, who calls in frequently. Tim, good friend of the show, Bills fanatic, living on the wrong coast when it comes to that, right? And he just wanted my take here. Obstructed views in the new stadium are just ridiculous. That was Tim texting me. Tim Schneider is our producer. I got an invite to go on a radio show. You may have heard of this guy. Thursday night, Jay Binkley. I will be on 96.5, The Fan in Kansas City. The Royals are playing the Dodgers this week. Thursday is a travel day, so that means Jay's on in the evening. And so it'll be Jay and I. True, Hatfield McCoy kind of conversation. What do you think Jay invited me on to talk about? Do you think Jay invited me to talk Josh Allen? Do you think he invited me to talk about the new defense? Did he invited me to talk about, hey, what do you think about the Bills and the Chiefs? Who should be on the AFC? Maybe, but this is the topic. Stadium sightline issues with Jay Binkley coming up Thursday night. I had a take yesterday that this is not really coming from you, the Bills fan, that on Saturday night, my feed, it seemed like a celebration. It seemed football is back in our new home, and players were enjoying it, and fans were enjoying it. And then something really turned bad over the next 24 hours. My take, and he's a good friend of the show, and he does this on a national level, and he's got not only Western New York roots, hell, he was the first pregame host for the now defunct Rochester Rhinos, right? Damon Amendolara, now doing his thing on SiriusXM, but we have DA on during a football show because he's got the Bill Maddock podcast. This is DA on the Bill Maddock podcast saying this better than I ever could.
I am not here to poke holes in the truth of what season ticket holders that have obstructed views may feel. That right there is wrong, especially for the money you plunk down. You have every right to be frustrated. So those that went over the weekend and showed up at their seats and thought it was going to be something and it was something else, I have complete support of you because you have paid a lot of hard-earned money. However, that is not the problem I have with what's going on right now. What's going on right now is all of the bottom feeders, all of those little feeder fish. You know, the feeder fish that grapple onto or suck onto larger whales or larger sharks to swim alongside and take any of the scraps that come your way. They're really not doing anything. They're just leeching onto the side of the animal that is doing all the work and taking in whatever scraps are there. That's the people I'm talking about because I have seen this overwhelming amount on my feed of creators or digital media people or TikTokers or what have you. For the most part, I've seen it focused on these kind of creators in the digital space that are now blaring on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok, etc. This could be the worst stadium in the NFL. And it is extremely frustrating because none of these people will ever step foot in Highmark. They will never. And those people, I'm so bothered by.
That's it. That's it in a nutshell. I know somebody personally, the Gordon family, and they were told up front, these are your seats. This is the price. You will be looking through plexiglass on this corner. And then sure enough, and then I asked Brittany, like, can you send me the pictures? Yeah, it's good. They're fine with it. That's something in sales. If you contract with somebody up front, that's the question, I guess, for the handful of people. And DA, we have to acknowledge that there are going to be some people that are not feeling good about their investment. And I was waiting for one of the news stories because they all kind of dangled it out there on social media. Hey, we want to hear from you. No, you get a real reporter. Get a real reporter on that. I'm lucky you can consider him a friend. Berkeley Breen, he's got this on, Channel 10 coming up where he found the season ticket holder, and I don't want to kind of speculate here, but I'm led to believe that this guy's not happy. And that will be the story. All right, well, if you're in customer service, what do? You refund the customer. Hey, they're all not sold out. Can we get you another seat? That's all. That's it. Now, two things can be true, right? Where DA and I have the same take that this was just, okay, we're taking pictures, right? And all of a sudden, the creators of the world, well, that always cracks me up. I'm going to show photos. I'm going to have a video of myself superimposed. Like, that's going to make you some sort of star. I'm sorry. Like, some of these creators, you're not going to go very far with that. You've got to come up with original content. But that being said, the Bills themselves, PR-wise, person that handles the stadium PR, you failed. You failed to recognize, hey, you have to think like a lawyer when you're in public relations, meaning all the angles all the time, all the bases covered, and you didn't have your bases covered because what we learned is for many of those pictures that you saw of, hey, you're seeing this picture of a railing in front of you. You know what? Those seats aren't available for a football game. So that's my question. Why are the seats there in the first place? How hard would it have been to take them out? If you had just simply had a concert to open up the stadium, your eyes are in a different direction. You're pointing there at not the railing. Those seats are for other events. And let me check my notes. Are there other events other than football this fall? No, they're not. So the Bills are partially to blame because you didn't think this one through. This is the world we live in. Wasn't all going to be sunshine, rainbows. When we make this massive public investment, there's going to be criticism. I was really stunned how it just kind of flew right through. Like, wait a second, we got the public for there's no discourse. I observe like what happens in other communities. I'm observing what's happening in Chicago now, where they're like, no, not for us. And okay, we're gonna move it to Indiana if you're not going to give us. Okay, we'll see how that kind of plays out. It wasn't here. We never even got to that part of the story of the threatening municipality that's going to take your Buffalo Bills away. It was like, oh, is that how much it's going to cost? Okay, here you go. We love our Bills. Don't go. That's a different story. And look, there's other critiques of the stadium that I've actually heard from some people. One being, hey, you're on the top rows there. You're used at the old stadium. Oh, just 2 rows up. There's the bathroom. Nope, didn't do that. Hard for me to say without seeing myself about the scoreboard. Some people are saying that the scoreboards are not what should be. But do you really need that? Do you really need the Jerry World scoreboard or whatever it is, some gargantuan thing that's going to take your attention away? If you could just see the darn replay, I think you'd be fine. Like, just don't clutter up the scoreboard with ads. Maybe that's just the simple solution. So, I don't know. Did we cut corners on this? I think the whole obstructed sightline view thing is overblown. It really is. But, when it goes into day 2 and the talk kind of continuing, and now, as Berkeley Breen will have it, I'm assuming this guy is disgruntled. Okay, well, you're the Bills. It's very simple. Would you like a different seat? Would you like your money back? Now, if the story takes another angle, and I don't know, like that, the only way that this could go bad is, oh, here's proof of what we were shown, and the outside sales department. This wasn't the Bills. This was the outfit that Jerry Jones brings in, the traveling salesman. If they did anything to get you into that car today, so then we might have a problem there. Maybe some lawyer will say, "Hey, class action lawsuit, where to go?" I would just caution you that okay, maybe the Bills aren't buttoned up in this regard, PR wise. The NFL is always buttoned up legally, always. Again, if it's a handful of people, say there's 20 people, then give them their money back. Or offer them to move to a new seat. It's very, very simple. So when and I know Berkeley's a great journalist, like, hey, like I'm sure he's reaching out to the Bills if you have the disgruntled fan. And there might be people that actually have cold feet about this too. If I spent all that money on a PSL and I am not over the moon happy with it, well, this might be your route. 585-866-4326. That's the Good Smoke Barbecue and Pub Wingman line. So thanks to DA for allowing us to play that today. Do you remember a story, Tim, where it was Sean Payton coming in, and it's his first year in Denver, and Sean Payton, self-proclaimed offensive genius, right? And he put on blast Nathaniel Hackett. I mean, it was an outside, which you never do, right? This isn't quite that. But Jim Leonard today, new defensive coordinator, and heck, I mean, he worked on Sean Payton's staff. Are we upset? We want our coaches. We want our players. Just tell us things that are honest, right? And when you hear this cut, as a Bills fan, if you're being honest, you're going to say, yeah, he's right here in a way. But it's something you never, ever hear. This is Jim Leonhard speaking to reporters today.
You're going to get guys in places to make plays, right? That's my job. But who can finish, right? Who can finish, get guys on the ground? Was an Achilles heel here last year, right? So that's the number one thing we have to correct. And the number one way to do it is getting population to the football, right? Everybody knows that, the effort you play with and getting more than one guy to the ball. And it's in all reality the biggest piece, because scheme is scheme, but if you can't get people on the ground, you're going to have to make adjustments and figure out how you can help them do that.
Okay, he said nothing he said was wrong there, but if you're Sean McDermott, just, sitting around whatever it is you're doing, and if you hear that, wow, an Achilles heel? I know the run defense was spotty, see the Atlanta game, but you made personnel changes, and I think it shored up a little bit. I mean, there are games where you were the more physical team. See the Pittsburgh Steelers game. I think that was enjoyable Thanksgiving weekend, was it not? Like, you destroyed that team, you emasculated them. But there were other times where you're like, this isn't what it should be. And when he's saying Achilles heel, all right, well, you have Cole Bishop. I don't think he's talking about that. C.J. Gardner-Johnson is now in for the safety. It's pointing to the linebackers, right? And the first depth chart came out today from the Bills. Now, we're not going to get an injury report, which you'd think we should, right? It's a preseason game, yeah, but there is a certain percent of you sickos out there that want to bet preseason football. I wouldn't touch that. PJ Glasser will join us this Thursday. He wouldn't touch it either. Like, don't bet preseason football. How do you know who's playing? But for those who do, wouldn't you like to know, all right, we're not going to see so-and-so because they're injured. Well, that's part of this, too, from today, is that we're not sure the exact nature of some of these injuries. We didn't hear from Joe Brady today, and we won't tomorrow. We'll hear from him on Thursday, so we're going to have a little bit of time here. But from today's practice, once again, not out there was Connor McGovern. Now, McGovern, they could just be being cautious about this, and that's fine. Ty Johnson not out there. Maxwell Harrison was working out to the side, but not in full pads. And then the two safeties, Cole Bishop and C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Now, I'm hoping that Gardner-Johnson didn't have some sort of setback. Weren't we all kind of surprised? Like, wait, he's back after calf strain? Wow. Cole Bishop leaving the Saturday night practice early, and no one kind of got a picture why. So it's a little, you don't get the info you normally would in the regular season. We're just going to have to kind of deal with it as we kind of go along. So the other key element, too, here, this is it's debatable, but when you hear him lay this out, we're going to see names on the defensive side of the ball.
It gets to stack up on guys, and you really see who can retain information and continue to push in training camp. In season, it gets easier. There's just so much more that goes into their process on game day, but right now it's kind of like the overload theory, right? You give it all to them, and you see who can retain it.
Yeah, so the starters will be playing in this game here, this is the defensive coordinator, Jim Leonhard, talking about the starters.
Ones versus ones, right? Like, you want the same level of competition, and it's always great to play another offense. It's not what you've seen every day, and sometimes you kind of fall into a rhythm of, like, I know this block, or I know how this blocker is going to attack me. Anytime you get against different competition, things change.
Yeah, that's a different approach here, right? We should see something from Carolina. Do we see Bryce Young? They get 4 preseason games. Remember, they already played last Thursday night against the Arizona Cardinals in probably what was the best Hall of Fame game ever. So the Bills, Saturday, 1 o'clock. Hopefully we get a nice afternoon out there, and hopefully we can put this stadium story to rest. But the idea that the stadium is now being called the worst in the NFL, or the Bills botched this or whatever, no, it's not a perfect rollout. And unfortunately for the Bills here, and for the news cycle in the NFL is a little slow right now. Everybody's just kind of patiently waiting. You've got a lot of free agents just still kind of sitting out there, but with that kind of void, it's leading it led on a Saturday night into Sunday. The AI creators of the world to go after something and create a storyline that really is blown out of proportion, in my opinion. Red Wings home tonight. They're taking on Charlotte. We will talk. We'll talk a little hockey here too, as the Amherst have to hire a new assistant coach. Nathan Page, congratulations to him. He takes a head coaching job in the USHL today. We'll have time for your calls as well. 585-866-4326. Michael F. Florio next. My name is Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester. Bills back at practice today. Connor McGovern, Maxwell Harrison, Cole Bishop, Ty Johnson amongst those not practicing today. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonard on how there won't be a lot of tape on his unit at the outset.
They can look at what I did at Wisconsin. They can look at what we did in Denver. And then they're going to have to piece together what this is finally going to be. It will be a little bit more straightforward in preseason year one than maybe it will be going forward just because of the unknown for some of these teams that we play.
Defensive starters expected to see some action on Saturday, 1 o'clock, Bills and Panthers. We'll talk some Bills and some fantasy. Our friend Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, to join us next year in the Sports Bar. Beautiful night for a ball game. The Wings open a series tonight at home against Charlotte. Yankees tonight at the stadium taking on Seattle. Gene Battaglin, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester. It is time to talk some football, both real football, fantasy football, maybe a little Knicks. Because when I was texting, asking Mike if he had some time today to join us here in Rochester, I was joking with him. I'm like, yeah, we could talk about LeBron opening up in New York. What do you know? They gave us what we were asking for, LeBron and the Knicks. And the Knicks on Christmas Day taking on the Spurs. Michael F. Florio, how are you today, sir?
I am good. I am happy that I'm going to be in LA for that game because the ticket prices are through the roof, but I am ecstatic to see the banner go up, them get their rings, and I'm really excited to be here talking some ball with you.
Well, it's funny. You said you're happy you're going to be in LA. Is that just to protect you from yourself, knowing that if you were in New York, you couldn't resist paying whatever it was to get in there on opening night?
Potentially. I spent a good amount on just Knicks championship gear, and as you know, I flew to New York for the parade and for the closeout game and stuff like that. So, yeah, it protects me from – because, look, I could say right now, oh, it's too much money, but the day of, who knows, you know?
Yeah, the market always kind of changes on that stuff. Bills camp so far, and it just seems like there's some negative juju, whether that's about, hey, obstructed seats, or whether it's about the uniforms or whatever. It's Joe Brady now taking control of this team, and now this truly is his offense. He doesn't have to answer to anybody when it comes to what. Do we expect a different offense this year with Joe Brady, not just as play caller, but as the head coach now, Michael?
Yeah, I do, and I've seen some of the stuff you were talking about. I didn't love the uniforms per se, but I did really like what the stadium looks like, and the seats look awesome and everything. But the thing that I'm most excited about with what I'm seeing at a Bills camp so far is on the offensive side of the ball. And it seems to me, at least, like from what I'm not there watching, but from what I'm seeing online and stuff, a lot more emphasis on the deep ball. And it's something that I think partly why they got away from it in the last couple of years is because of the personnel at wide receiver. Now having someone like a DJ Moore obviously helps be able to win downfield. But even more than that, sources like people that I've spoken to, and then other people like have spoke on the record about it and stuff, that McDermott had more say on the offense than I think a lot of us realize from the outside looking in. And look, I'm going to give him a chance. I think we'll know pretty quickly into the season if it was just talk or if it is actual, true in reality. But I've taken a lot of what Joe Brady has said since he's been hired. Like, we're going to move people around the field and be more aggressive and stuff. I take it at face value, and seeing it kind of come to fruition in training camp. Granted, the season will be the ultimate test, but with the information we have as of right now, I do feel good that we're going to get that back into it, because I kind of forgot about this, but coming into the 2024 season, the quarterback receiver combos that connected for like deep touchdowns, Josh Allen was top 3 of the 4 guys. It was him and Gabe Davis, him and Stephon Diggs, and I think it was him and Dawson Knox. Don't quote me on that last one. I could go back and find it. But yet, we know that's in his game. So let's get back to that. And then I think that just helps open up stuff for everyone else if you have the deep ball going.
This is both a real football and a fantasy football question, right? And I go back to Okay, Joe Brady, this was only his second game as offensive coordinator in this season. It's a Monday night game. The Bills lose to Denver. Ken Dorsey gets fired. Brady gets promoted. The Bills beat the Jets. Then they go to Philadelphia. And it's one of those classic barn burner games, right? And Bills end up losing this one in overtime. They might have won it in regulation, Mike, because there was a play that Joe Brady schemed up where James Cook, wide open, left sideline, I can still picture it, he drops the ball. That would have gone for 6. And I'm just wondering, when you bring up McDermott, how he hand-to-hand in that, like I'm wondering if, okay, we really don't want to do that. We really don't trust James Cook. They've never really used James Cook in that regard. Time has passed here. He's such a vital part of this offense. You want to get him in space. Is this just preseason talk right now, in your opinion? Or is there a possibility, say, if you're in a PPR league, that James Cook might actually have more value this year?
I can't say with certainty whether it is one or the other, but I do think there's a lot of meat on the bone there. And from a fantasy perspective, that is the way James Cook can reach the next level, is by simply being involved in the passing game more. Like, I don't think you should draft James Cook expecting him to put up another rushing champion season. Is that in the range of outcomes? Yes. But I don't think you should draft him being like, yeah, he's going to run for as many yards as he did last season. Because there's a very good possibility that is a career year type of production for James Cook. The touchdowns I do think are safe because 2 years in a row now we have seen that even Josh Allen putting up a high total of rushing touchdowns isn't going to completely take away from James Cook. But to your point, I remember that exact play you were bringing up, and I remember a couple of others where, like, Cook was open, but he had some concentration drops. I don't know if it was just, he was a young player. Maybe he was, like, thinking he was scoring before he had the ball in his hands and secured. But there was a number of plays like that come to mind. And one, I think that is coachable. Like, if it's a concentration thing, it's very coachable. But two, one thing I say a lot about drops is I think they're overrated. I think they only matter when they matter to the coaching staff and when that leads to less opportunity and less playing, just like less targets going his way and stuff like that. And again, I'm not in the building. I'm just speculating. McDermott kind of seems like a guy, like you messed up a couple of times. All right, you're out, and now I'm going to go to someone else. And the thing that I think has worked against James Cook is Ty Johnson has been so effective in that role. If you're the Bills the last couple of years, it's probably like, if it's not broke, don't fix it. And Josh Allen has called Ty Johnson the best third down back in football and stuff. But my counter to that is I think the offense is a lot less predictable if James Cook is out there for both kind of snaps, because like last year when James Cook would come off, it's like, all right, they'll run Ty Johnson, but more than likely this is a passing play and vice versa. So I think it could help the offense as a whole. And the other thing I think working in James Cook's favor right now is Ty Johnson is missing time.
Yeah.
That just gives him more and more opportunity with the ones to play those valuable third down snaps and stuff like that. Because, look, Ray Davis is great. It's not going to be Ray Davis in that role. So I think if James Cook, I think he can do that job, and I'm hopeful that they give him the opportunity to do so because it would take both, I think, the Bills' offense and for James Cook, his fantasy value even to the next level, if that's possible, given how productive he's been the last couple of years.
We are talking to Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, the Sick podcast with Stevie Johnson as well. It's great to have you on because not only do you cover the Bills, you cover the NFL at large. And when we're talking about DJ Moore this camp, and we were out there, you could see it. You could say with certainty, hey, the Bills haven't had anybody like this since Diggs. This is different. It looks great here in the summer sun, but what I go back to is Chicago last year. And he's splitting the numbers essentially three ways with Roma Dunze and Luther Burden. And Dunze actually played less games. And you look at the numbers, and if DJ Moore ended up with, whatever it was, the 50 catches, 600 yards this year, we'd be like, oh, my gosh, that's not – what was it in Chicago last year, Mike, that didn't allow DJ Moore to kind of flourish there with the young quarterback?
I'm very happy you asked this because I have very strong thoughts on this. I'm probably the high guy on DJ Moore in the fantasy space. I have him inside my top 15 wide receivers. I think he not only returns to form, I think we might even see a form that we never saw prior with DJ Moore. Because to make this point, I got to take you back to when I was doing the podcast with Stevie last year. Remember, the Bills didn't make a trade for a receiver, and then everyone was talking about, like, who could they get in the offseason? The name I kept going back to was DJ Moore. And I don't care what they paid to get him. I think he is going to be worth it. The reason I don't think it worked out in Chicago is because Ben Johnson runs a system that is very on-schedule oriented. What I mean by that is, like, you were supposed to be where you were supposed to be at the exact spot you're supposed to be when Ben Johnson wants you to be there. DJ Moore is more of an improviser. You know who that goes very well with? Josh Allen.
Right.
But to take that a step further, right? DJ Moore was the Bears' leading receiver in the playoffs. He had his most targets of any game in the playoffs. So when the games meant the most, they were trusting DJ Moore more than those other wide receivers. And beyond that, DJ Moore struggled last year on the short, quick stuff. I'm not going to deny that. But when Caleb Williams held the ball for 2.5 seconds or longer, DJ Moore was the Bears' leading receiver and the highest-rated receiver, I believe. I know he led them in yards and touchdowns, though, on those passes. Josh Allen, career, has never in any season thrown the ball in less than 2.9 seconds on average. So he is someone, as we all know, likes to dance behind the line, give his guys time, and I think DJ Moore is going to fit perfectly with that. DJ Moore is better outside than anyone the Bills had last year. He is better downfield than anyone the Bills had last year. And he can move all over. You could play him in the backfield. You could play him in the slot, left, right. It does not matter. So I think that's going to add a level of unpredictability and a little bit, I'm hoping, more creativeness with the scheme and letting guys move and in motion and stuff like that at the line. But I just think this is a perfect pairing. And for those who believe in narratives and stuff, I think DJ Moore, the chip on the shoulder storyline, is very true. I think he felt disrespected last year in Chicago, and I think he's out to prove to the whole world, because everyone when the Bills traded for him were like, oh, they overpaid, this is too much money, too much draft picks, all of that. I think he's looking to prove everyone wrong. And you could get him as a wide receiver 3 in fantasy. I have him as a high end 2, so I'm going to have DJ Moore on a ton of my fantasy teams. And if listeners believe in the work that I do, I think they should have him as well.
Wow. Maybe that's the one player that you don't have to pay the Bills tax here in Western New York that you can kind of grab if others are looking at their cheat sheet and you feel comfortable maybe dipping down just a little bit for a player that you believe in. Well, while we're kind of landed on the Bears, and you're the fantasy expert too, how's that offense going to evolve? Or is Caleb Williams, is he a candidate maybe for just a little bit of regression here in year 3? What direction do you see Chicago headed, Mike?
I think both things could be true. I think the Bears and Ben Johnson, this is why I love Ben Johnson. He himself was like, we are the top candidate for regression this year, because I think it was 6 different times last year the Bears won a game where they were trailing with 2 minutes to go. They're like our Knicks, right? There's just some magic sometimes with some teams. But speaking of the Knicks, the player that I keep comparing Caleb Williams to is Josh Hart. Like, he'll blow a layup, right? Like, I don't think people realize this. The last 2 years that Caleb's been in the NFL, he's been bottom 4 both years in catchable pass rate. He will, and I know some of that is he'd rather throw the ball 20 feet into the stands than throw an interception, which I actually don't think is a good thing. Like, people are saying, oh, the Bills are going to throw the ball deep, it's going to lead to more interceptions. Okay, some turnovers aren't bad. If the trade-off is you're playing uber conservative, I think that is worse than trying to pick your spots where to be aggressive and occasionally turning the ball over. So I think that has factored into it. But Caleb will miss a lot of the gimme, the layup-type throws. But then, like Josh Hart, there's 0.2 seconds on the shot clock, he's going to chuck up a 3. It's going to go in, and you're going to be like, how did he do that? The highs are so high with Caleb that I think a lot of people overlook how low the lows are. Now, can they reach that next level? I think it all depends on Caleb. Because we know he's got the magic-making gene and the playmaking gene. That's why he was the consensus number 1 pick when he came out in a very strong quarterback class. But can he do the simple things, the on-schedule things? Because if he can do that, then the Bears offense reaches a new level and they become one of the best offenses in the league and not one that relies on fourth quarter magic. Because the only quarterback to score more fourth quarter fantasy points than Caleb last year was Josh Allen. And Josh Allen scores more fantasy points than any quarterback. So there is a regression thing there potentially with the Bears and with Caleb, but that could be offset by if they just get better when on schedule. The other thing is I think their defense is going to be really bad, and that might just naturally force them to have their foot on the gas more and have to throw more. And even if the efficiency goes away, they then could make up for it with added volume.
We're talking to Michael F. Florio, NFL Network, and the Sick Podcast. News today. It's not a surprise. Maybe you could have gone through the charade a game or maybe even two, but the Vikings naming Kyler Murray their new starting quarterback. Kyler Murray and the Viking offense. Mike, I know you've got some thoughts on this.
Yeah, I'm a Kyler guy. And this is something I had to keep saying like on Twitter and stuff because people will be like, he's not good. And I don't necessarily disagree. I don't think Kyler is a great real-life quarterback. But fantasy and reality are two very different things. And for fantasy, he's very good. He has never once played at least 14 games in a season and not finished top 10 in total points at quarterback. And last season was the only time he wasn't top 12 in points per game. And he played 5 games. So take that with a grain of salt. So basically every time he plays football, he performs at a top 12 fantasy quarterback level. So I have him inside my top 12. But ADP varies site to site, but in no league, in no site is he going as a top 12 fantasy quarterback. And in some, you're getting him something like QB 17, 18. To me, it's just a pure buying opportunity because not only is he shown us that he is going to outlive his cost already year over year, but I would argue it is the best system that he plays in. Like, I know J.J. McCarthy struggled, but look at what KOC has done with Sam Darnold and Carson Wentz put up better numbers than he had been for years. And Nick Mullins was putting up numbers. And, like, he's a proven track record of being able to elevate his quarterbacks. And then he has maybe the best 1 through 3 wide receiver room in the league with Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Jawan Jennings. And then you add in the running backs and T.J. Hawkinson. And there's an easy path for Kyler to greatly exceed his ADP. And the thing is, you don't got to put all your eggs in that Kyler basket because you could pick your favorite safe quarterback. Mine is Jared Goff, but you could take Baker Mayfield or Jordan Love or any of those guys in that range and pair him with Kyler, and you have your upside play then, and you have your safe floor play. And that really is the way I like to attack quarterback this year, with one upside option and one safe option, because I'll wait and I'll be able to kind of cover my bases that way.
We have football back in our lives fully. I'm sorry. Yes, it's preseason, but I'm going to geek up. I'll watch Thursday. I'll watch Friday. I'll be in Buffalo on Saturday. What would be your advice? Because we're all going to do our little self-scouting. Like, not to overreact, certainly, but are there any players that you're going to be paying attention to this weekend here as we open up preseason play?
Yeah, my biggest advice is don't overreact to preseason. Like, I'm going to be watching as well. And more than anything, what I'll be watching is the opportunities. Like, when the starting offense is out there, which running, like for the Jags, because I'm very invested in Bashaw Tootin. So I haven't seen yet if their starters are playing or not in week 1. But whenever the starters are out there for the Jags, I'm going to be keeping a close eye on when is Bashaw Tootin out there, when are they taking him off the field, snap counts, stuff like that. So that's more what I care about for preseason. But I will say, like, if it's a fifth stringer or a fourth stringer in the fourth quarter that makes a cool play, that doesn't matter per se. But, like, I remember Isaac Tesla a couple of years ago with a huge preseason, and, like, it didn't come to fruition that year. But he's been on our the fantasy radar ever since, and he might get a chance this year to be their wide receiver 3. So that is one thing that could come late in handy later in the season. Like, Tez Johnson is a name that a lot of people remembered from preseason, and they picked him up last year, and he played well after that. So I'm looking for opportunities with the ones, and then after that, kind of what reserve players. I might have some biases because I watch all these guys when they're coming out for the draft and stuff like that. But I just watch those guys and take like mental notes. Like, all right, if someone wants to get hurt on this team, this is a receiver, let's say, that could blossom off the waiver wire or something like that.
Well, this is great, too, because you as a Met fan, me as a Met fan, hey, it's nice that they're winning games now. It's a little too late here, Mike. Well, I was in Pittsburgh over the weekend. I mean, it's fun when you see them win 11-1. It's not fun when you see them lose 9-0. I guess I'll put it that way. So.
No, this is the classic New York sports thing, though, right? Like,
yep.
Once you're out of it, like the Jets and Giants do it yearly. Once you're out of it and you blow it up, yeah, then we'll start winning.
The Sick Podcast, and I'm thankful that during your busy time here that we have a few minutes for folks who are just beginning their homework right now. Tell everybody where they can get your fantasy content, and then for Bill's content, tell everybody about the Sick Podcast and every other platform you're on here, Mike.
So actually, we have moved from the Sick Podcast Network. Me and Stevie have started our own venture now called Legend and Guru, which you could go follow us on Twitter, follow us on. We're going to be on all the socials. We're on YouTube, Legend and Guru, and then we're doing a couple of different shows. And the first one we've put out is our Bills podcast, which we are now calling Microphone Mafia. You'll get it every Thursday like you have been. But it's not just me and Stevie. We are now, our third co-host has joined the group, and Bills fans will know him very well as well. It's Donald Jones, former Bills wide receiver. So we've recorded a couple episodes, have them out, and like they're talking about the Goon Squad and who was, messing with who in the locker room back then and stuff, and just really cool stories. And obviously we're talking about Bills today and the season and all of that. But if you were a Bills fan, I think you would love the podcast because it's a mix of, today's analysis and what we think of the team paired with like old stories from a really fun Bills team from a decade or so ago. So definitely think people should be checking that out. And otherwise, NFL Fantasy Live is back on NFL Network next week. And then I'm going to be doing some stuff with ESPN Fantasy this year as well. That's still in the works, exactly what it'll be. But if you follow me on like social media at Michael F. Florio, you'll be able to keep up to date with everything.
Yeah, you're all one happy family, and Stevie is a treasure. I think he's landed with the right fan base, and we got to talk to him as well. Michael, let's do this again here. As we're learning more about the fantasy football, but always value your Bills opinions here. Thank you for the time today, bud.
Thank you. Always happy to be a part of it, and go Bills.
Yeah, it's Michael F. Florio with the new platform with Stevie Johnson and Donald Jones. Remember, Donald Jones was on with John Murphy for many years. It was the John Murphy show, but Donald Jones was the guy. And then he was in New Jersey, and I think logistically that kind of got difficult. And this is before really Zoom became a thing. And then entered Steve Tasker, and Steve Tasker kind of took that show over, and then it's been Chris Brown on that. So anyhow, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, football on Thursday, Detroit and Cincinnati, Colts and Patriots. Did you see who's starting for Indianapolis?
I did.
Anthony Richardson. So this is one of those, all right, will we overreact if Anthony Richardson all of a sudden shows you the promise from 2 years ago? Like, oh, that guy, I forgot he was even in the league. So I'm all for overreacting. It's just, can you avoid the temptation when it comes to draft day? That's really what it comes down to. I mean, the overreaction player, I'm going to tell you right now for the Buffalo Bills, it's going to be this kid Wheeler, the running back from the UFL, and we love that underdog story. Your Fred Jacksons, all those guys. Kerry Bender, I'll throw that name out. Who was the guy that was from England 2 years ago?
Oh, if you didn't say England, I would have knew his name.
What was his name? So I could pull out Kerry Bender.
Travis Clayton.
Nope. That's not him. Running back.
Travis Clayton.
Nope. Really?
Christian Wade.
That's it. Thank you. Christian Wade. Christian Wade, we had on the show. And he spent a year on the practice squad, and he just kind of disappeared. He just ran through like an open field against the Colts in a preseason game. Preseason football can be silly. We'll all be excited about this, and in this kind of format where you're bored with one game, you can kind of flip to another. Yeah, that'll be fun. I'm curious too. Like, are they going to lead on ESPN with the WNBA or the NFL? I'm saying this today to Tim. Like, yes, Caitlin Clark's playing tonight. You've got the Yankees at home tonight. You've got meaningful baseball. I don't know. Fine. See where I'm going with that. Happy hour's coming up, and in our new hours, legitimately, yeah, this is the signing. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. It's gonna be 5 o'clock right here in the sports bar. So, if you're home listening, pour yourself a cold one. When you get home, do that as well. While you're driving, don't do that, please. But we invite you and your participation. We'll get to some of your tweets, your texts. 585-866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
So much action, we couldn't fit it all.
Chester.
You notice a rattle in your ducts, a rise in your heating and cooling bills? Well, if you do, give Belknap a ring. With 0% financing, the cost of upgrading to a high-efficiency dual-fuel heating system is a breeze. Learn more at belknapheating.com. That's belknapheating.com. Go green, save energy and money with Belknap. Schedule a free estimate on your new installation. Give Belknap a ring at 716-688-1728. For more comfort and less ka-ching, give Belknap a ring.
AM WBEE HD2 Rochester and everywhere you go at WGR Rochester. The sports leader. 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester. An Odyssey sports station. WGR Rochester. Sports Update.
Bills practice today. Connor McGovern, Maxwell Harrison, Cole Bishop, Ty Johnson amongst those not practicing. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonard believes in practicing hard.
Seeing guys transition to real timing, right? The second half of a play sometimes in a practice can get skewed. And you got to get guys to understand, to trust. And again, that's where I said, like, let it rip and make plays. Well, usually you make more of those in live settings when the quarterback's timing becomes more real.
It'll be ones against ones. Leonard adding defensive starters expected to see action Saturday when the Bills take on the Panthers in Buffalo's first preseason game. Beautiful night for a ball game tonight. The Rochester Red Wings back home, first of 6, taking on the Charlotte Knights. Yankees tonight taking on Seattle at the Stadium. Red Sox are once again up in Toronto. Gene Battaglia, the sports leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950, WGR Rochester.
Welcome into the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia, where the voice of the Rochester fan is heard. Pull up a stool and join us at 866-4326. This is WGR Rochester, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia is on now.
As we begin happy hour here in the Sports Bar, thank you for making us part of your day and joining your ride home as we are here to talk sports with you at 585-866-4326. We are back here in Afternoon Drive, Flower City. Yeah, this is my town, and I'm glad you're making us part of your day. Some reaction here is a couple of topics. Unfortunately, we have still this Bills Stadium story gaining legs, right? And as we mentioned, hey, here's Berkeley Breen. He might be on now for all I know. Hey, I'm here with the season ticket holder. I'm not happy. Okay, you're going to have a certain subset that maybe they didn't get what they paid for. All right, just ask the question. Let's not make a big deal of this. I had a friend who, actually, I can name him. His name was Peter Montemurno. For years, he called Fisher football with me on these airwaves, and he's a Sabre season ticket holder. And this is going back to the years where Larry Quinn was in charge. And Larry Quinn was kind of an abrasive guy. I could use other words, right? But he kind of like had that know-it-all kind of vibe to him. And the Sabres, this is when they lose Drury. They lose a lot of stars. And Peter wrote an email to Larry Quinn. Little did Peter expect Larry Quinn would not respond by email. He would actually, the call is coming in. It says Buffalo. Hello, this is Peter. Yeah, hi, this is Larry Quinn. Yeah, I got your email. Hey, if you don't want your season tickets anymore, I've got other people that do. Do you? Okay, so you want to keep your season tickets. Do you feel better that you wrote that email? Because I kind of took. I don't know if that's petty or if that's. I don't know what to call that. Right? Well, if you are one of, I'm going to say the few who felt like you were misled by the Bills, well, that's an easy fix. Do you want them or not? Here's your money back. Or, hey, we have these seats over here. As I said in hour number 1 here of the show, like, two things can be true here. Like, I think the Bills did a terrible job rolling this out, the person that's in charge of the PR of the stadium. You have to look at all the angles here. And one of the angles is you have these seats that are not actually football seats, but you might get somebody that thinks that's a seat, and boy, this would look really, really bad. And then all of a sudden it gets caught up in the aggregator world of influencers and creators and people saying this is the worst stadium ever. No, that's not true at all. So the story should just be put to bed, right? These seats that are not meant for football, take them out. And if there's a concert, put them back in. As far as I know, we don't have a concert, right? And if there is somebody that's upset, hey, do you want your money back or you want a different seat? That's the end of the story. End of story. But because we live in a world where people have to be pissed about something. Chris writing in. Chris, welcome back, buddy. So many people we've heard from now. We're going back to this slot, too. South Central Kentucky Chris, one of the OGs here. It's a variation. He's writing into us on X, by the way. Our handle, at WGR Rochester, if that's easier for you to rather than call him. Chris writing in. It's a variation of the same old Western New York joke. Buffalo is a hellhole. It's cold. It's rust, wings, beer, and sadness. They can never have anything nice. Oh, look, they have a nice new stadium, $2 billion. A few seats are obstructed. Buffalo is just going to Buffalo. Chris, that's right. Like, this is how the world wants to paint us. And Maggie Gray said something interesting yesterday. If you missed it, she was fantastic, as she always is. And it was one of those ruh-roh. Is the country starting to get Bills fatigue? In other words, we had this with the Patriots for good reason. And when the Chiefs won their first Super Bowl, oh, that's nice. It's somebody not named New England. We like you. Until, oh gosh, there's only so much of Chris Collinsworth drooling over Patrick Mahomes I can take. Oh, you won again. Yay, you. Oh, the pop star is there. Blah. Yeah, we have cheese fatigue. It doesn't seem right that we haven't won anything here. But that might be the country pushing back like, hey, come on, this is a little too much here. That could be it as well. Anthony writing into me directly. I'm at Gene Battaglia. If you want to write to producer Tim, he's at Womfump. I'm not going to explain that here. Anthony writing. WGR Rochester is the easiest way. If I were the Bills, I would have had anyone I sold a stairwell seat to come in weeks or months ago to see if they still wanted to keep the seat after the construction of the space. Buying a seat off a virtual image is tough. They could have avoided the shock. There's a caveat to that, a clarification. The Bills actually didn't do the selling. They had this intermediate company, middleman, if you will, Jerry Jones, and I'm sure they're on to the next town, Cleveland or whatever. What will, really, a coffee is for closers, ABC, buy this seat now. And I've known people that were, they said they were interested, and then, the sales department wouldn't let up. Well, that's also kind of a question. Did they do a little too much of a sell? Thank you, Anthony, for writing in. Appreciate that. Chris also writing in, hey, I would sue everybody. I would sue Kathy Hochul. I would sue Terry Pagula. Chris, in Sports Bar 2.0, we are retiring that bid here in the year 2026, but I see where you're going. 585-866-4326. That is the phone number to join us. As also Greg writing in, your interview with Michael F. Florio, and it's just Josh Allen as the improviser. Yeah, it's interesting, right? DJ Moore. Like, why did it not work last year? You mean to tell me Luther Burden had the same stats? And Roma Dunze in less games the same stats? What gives? And it's the idea of Caleb Williams not really an improviser. He wants the ball in a certain spot, and that's not DJ Moore. Maybe Moore reading leverage. Maybe this is going to be beyond our imagination what has happened here. Like the first year for Diggs when he showed up, he wasn't good. He was great. A+. Shattered Eric Moles' single season receiving record. 1,500 yards plus. You're like, wow, we didn't even know we could have an offense like this. And part of it was, hey, we didn't have a lot of tape. We didn't really think Josh Allen was all that. People still thought the Bills were a run-first team at that point. The year is 2020. 2019 was a playoff season. The Bills had won 11 games, but you really didn't see Josh Allen until Diggs showed up. Well, with McDermott kind of stepping aside, not by his choice, but the idea that Brady now can kind of take this to a different place. The deep ball, does that become a thing? Does that actually loosen things underneath? It is kind of exciting to think, hey, no more complimentary football. You have the leading candidate for MVP. Fact. A guy won the MVP 2 years ago. And a guy that, who knows what would have happened last year, and not broke his foot, literally. So let's play to that strength. And, okay, if you have the game where Josh Allen throws 3 picks and you lose, so be it. But I want to go down swing. I don't want to try to mask other deficiencies that seem to be the way. When you had a substandard defense, all right, can we just kind of, cover this up by we're playing the Chiefs. Let's play a 24-17 game, shall we? No, let's let it rip. Let's let it rip, especially like at the beginning when the weather's fine. 585-866-4326 is the number. Bringing up McDermott. And this is Jim Leonard speaking today. And Jim Leonard in this cut. When Sean McDermott took over, he was very mature. He didn't go back over the goofy Rex Ryan era. Didn't really. Maybe somebody would pull a quote, right? But I don't ever recall when Sean McDermott came in and just kind of went back in time and said some things. This was Jim Leonard today, and you're going to hear this cut, and it's refreshing because you're a Bills fan. You know this to be true, but these are the things, the quiet things that normally you don't get a coach saying out loud. Jim Leonard speaking to reporters today.
You're going to get guys in places to make plays, right? That's my job, but who can finish, right? Who can finish, get guys on the ground. Was an Achilles heel here last year, right? So that's the number one thing we have to correct, and the number one way to do it is getting population to the football, right? Everybody knows that, the effort you play with and getting more than one guy to the ball. And it's in all reality the biggest piece, because scheme is scheme, but if you can't get people on the ground, you're going to have to make adjustments and figure out how you can help them do that.
Well, okay, so he says scheme is scheme, and he's going with the, all right, just population football. I like that. That's a new one. Put that on their bingo board, everybody. No more complimentary football. It's population. Get the population tackling. Achilles heel. Huh. Okay, so who is not on the defense from last year? Well, you have Bosa. You have Tre'Davious White. You have Matt Milano. You have Shaq Thompson. Jordan Poyer. I just rattled off 5 guys. So maybe you could say that the personnel has changed so much. And think about it. Of those guys that I just rattled off, if any of them found the job, they were all key contributors last year. So when you kind of put it that way, I think Sean McDermott actually defensively did his best job last year, considering what you had. But what you had wasn't good enough, and that was that. Yes, there's some new names. And when I hear that, of the guys that are coming back, I mean, that just kind of puts a bright spotlight on what's the position. Normally you should have your nose stuck in there. That's linebacker. Hey, TB, Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams. Eyes on you. And we will see Terrell Bernard. We will see Dorian Williams. Surprise, surprise. Defensive starters will play on Sunday. I have flipped on this. And it could be just because, hey, the season's longer than it used to be. And particularly in Buffalo, if the actual season from start to finish here lasted just the 18 weeks, it's a failure. I'm talking playoffs, like tacking on additional rounds. It's a long season. Do you really need to see how Terrell Bernard looks right now? Well, he's the defensive coordinator, and he wants to set a tone here. But I can't come up with a parallel where somebody was ever so slightly critical of the previous defense. It's not quite like Sean Payton calling out Nathaniel Hackett. That was over the top. That was, okay, Nathaniel Hackett was kind of a clown, right? We saw him here in Buffalo as an offensive coordinator. Like, okay, like, sure, you have the Hackett name, but for Sean Payton to come in and just put last year on blast, okay, that's not really cool. And to me, for Jim Leonard, I just don't know necessarily if you needed to go there today. But when I say that, though, I want my coaches, I want my athletes, we want them kind of speaking what's on their mind just a little bit. So we'll hear from head coach Joe Brady on Thursday which means, all right, well, we see Josh Allen out there. Okay, that we should have different feeling on, where Jim Leonard's telling you, hey, I want a different mentality, basically. Getting guys on the ground, making tackles, fundamental football. Doesn't matter about the scheme. Okay, fine. Set that tone against Carolina. Fantastic. Don't get anyone hurt. I don't need to see Josh Allen and DJ Moore. And I know that might upset some people. I do need to see one of the two backup quarterbacks actually show that they belong in an NFL field. Is that a little too much to ask? Maybe make a pass or two, a completion, lead a drive. Granted, with guys who won't be on the team, but hey, can we do something like that on offense? 585-866-4326 is our number. We had other news today from the NFL, being Kyler Murray named the starter in Minnesota. Oh my gosh, I am so stunned that the Vikings are going with Kyler Murray over. J.J. McCarthy hasn't shown anything in this league. Well, check that. There was a preseason game against the Raiders, his rookie season, where like, wow, that looks really, really good. Oh my gosh, he has a season-ending injury. Sorry, like not every top 10 quarterback that is drafted is going to make it. And for Kyler Murray, I'm not a fan of his personality. He really does have that little man syndrome, doesn't he? Like just very pouty, very me first. Edge, but you know what? He's better than anything they've had in Minnesota. And yes, I'm including Sam Darnold in there. Darnold is maybe he took his game to another level in Seattle last year. But he kind of fell apart. Can Kyler Murray actually do things in that Minnesota offense and get them back to the postseason? When we talked to Michael Florio, he says, hey, look, that's an easy one. He's gonna, if he's healthy, he's a top 10 quarterback fantasy wise. Now, in that division, I'm looking at the Bears, and I don't think their defense is all that great. And could they kind of regress a little bit? Sure, why not? They had some really, I don't want to say fluky wins, but wins they pulled out, and you can't rely on that all the time. Green Bay seems to always be kind of the pick. Oh, you know, this is the year they all take a step forward. I don't know. Could be Detroit this year. Could be. We've got football. Isn't that great? Football is back in our lives. As if you're just looking at the schedule on Thursday night, again, nothing tonight, but Thursday night, ESPN will have the Cardinals and the Raiders. So maybe we get a little Fernando Mendoza on. Yeah, that's a reason to tune in. Packers and the Steelers from Pittsburgh. That's on NFL Network at 7 on Thursday. Yeah, you get to see Aaron Rodgers in a ball cap. Tim, when I was down there, too, I felt like taking one of these like selfie pictures going, ugh. If you go down to the Blue Cross Arena, for instance, I think it's kind of cool. Like, hey, when you get to hockey season, let's put up the banners outside. Zach Metza, and you see this, they'll do it for the Nighthawks too. Connor Field, so street posts kind of dress up the area nicely. I didn't know you needed to do that for the Pirates and the Steelers. They do it for the Pirates because unless you might be a Pirate fan, you don't know who the heck Jake Horowitz is. I mean, like, okay, I can understand that. But then you walk over to the Steelers stadium, and there's one of those light poles with Aaron Rodgers on it. Okay,
It being Aaron Rodgers, maybe he demanded it.
Maybe. That's probably true. So that's on for you, and then you've got Tennessee and San Francisco. A lot of people are fantasy-wise. We got to get Michael F. back on with us at some point. Drill down a little bit. Cam Ward and the Titans, they were gross last year. But sometimes a team that's gross and they take their lumps, could they actually turn the corner? So that I don't overreact to preseason football. But I do think that it's kind of fun to kind of, just follow along. Oh, and that guy from Indianapolis is going to be getting the start. Anthony Richardson. He's starting at quarterback in New England coming up on Thursday. The ticket prices it dropped today. So the get-in price right now for Carolina Buffalo, it still is by far the highest in the NFL in terms of a preseason game because it's the first game there. $59.
That's almost half of what it was a week or two ago.
Right, yeah, right. So the market's falling. Will we get to Friday and that's down to $40?
Do you think the stadium backlash affected that?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm here to tell you that this is social media at its worst.
Yep.
Just distorting a story. We played it. I won't play it now, but Damon Amendolara said it better than I could, that you have all these bottom feeder creator types who aren't from Buffalo, never would step foot in the stadium, and somehow they're waving their finger and calling people dumb, and this is the worst stadium in the league. How could you be so stupid? When in reality, those pictures are taken from seats that most of them are not sold for football. So, again, it's a very simple thing, a very simple solution. You're the Bills. If somebody says, I'm not happy, well, then do a Larry Quinn, like how we did to my friend years ago. You call him up, hey, do you want your money back? Because I've got other people that would want this seat. Okay, then thank you, and we appreciate your support. That's it. Or if you're somebody that's really disgruntled, I want a different seat. Okay, well then you work to accommodate that person. I think that there are two gripes about the stadium. That the one with the lack of bathrooms, particularly up top. Okay, that might cause you, it might be difficult to walk down the 30 steps or whatever it is and get back up in time. The other is the scoreboard, and I'm going to reserve judgment on that because I'm going Saturday. I'm sitting in the press box.
Prestige.
I am media. I'm doing, what I'm doing there in terms of working press, Tim? Nothing. It's like it's orientation day for me. Like first day you walk in, I remember being so nervous walking into Aquinas Institute, not knowing where everything was, and oh my gosh, hey freshman, you're walking up the wrong stairwell. This is they had stairwells that went up and they went down, and I don't know if it's still that way. The point being, though, nerd! Dude, I know your old man went to McQuaid, all right, but the point is, though, I'd like to kind of just see it and get that still is a storyline, and for a lot of people, I would imagine maybe you're not giving up your preseason tickets and treat it like a game day. That's what I would like. Preseason game, you can just kind of float in there like hour before kickoff. No, get out there, tailgate for as much as they'll allow you. Have some fun. Like, life is short. So, again, Bills-Panthers, 1 o'clock. The Bills are actually favored in this one. Now, I am not one to advise anybody on betting football, much less preseason football. However, you have Carolina who actually played a game already, and maybe their offense might be a little more sync against Bills' team that, okay, well, if Josh Allen and the offense goes out there, maybe they're kind of banking it. I don't know how these odds makers come up with the lines, to be honest, in the preseason. It's just, let's take a shot. Like the Bengals, for example, 6.5-point favorites over Detroit on Thursday night. Why? What is that? I mean, the only sure thing was like Harbaugh playing starters and wanting to win a game, right?
Yeah.
That was the only surefire thing. And what's funny about that is the Giants are actually underdogs against the Vikings. The Vikings on the road are favored by 1.5. Again, I'm not advising anybody to bet on preseason football, but it just seems like, this is the time of year where nobody knows anything. You could say the same thing for week 1, too. Like the lines they put out there, you really don't know. Well, let's take a break. I've got a quick thought on baseball. We got to get to this Amherst story as well. And we have time for your calls. 585-866-4326. My name is Gene Battaglia here on WGR Rochester.
95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
Sal Capaccio's Extra Point, Jim Rome, and the Sports Bar with Gene Battaglia. We talk sports while you work and on your ride home. The Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
WGR Rochester Sports Update.
Bills practice today. Connor McGovern, Maxwell Harrison working out to the side. Cole Bishop, Ty Johnson also not practicing. C.J. Gardner-Johnson also missing the workout. Defensive coordinator Jim Leonard on how there won't be a lot of tape on his unit at the outset.
They can look at what I did at Wisconsin. They can look at what we did in Denver. And then they're going to have to piece together what this is finally going to be. It will be a little bit more straightforward in preseason year one than maybe it will be going forward, just because of the unknown for some of these teams that we play.
Defensive starters expected to see action Saturday, 1 o'clock, Bills and Panthers. Rochester Red Wings tonight. They begin a series at home against Charlotte. On the Major League schedule, the Yankees taking on Seattle in the Bronx, the Mets in Atlanta, the Red Sox playing up in Toronto. Gene Battaglia, the Sports Leader, 95.7 FM, AM 950, WGR Rochester.
The Sports Leader, 95.7 FM and AM 950 WGR Rochester.
Of all these pictures that I've seen about the Bills Stadium, I think we have the definitive one that should upset you as a Bills fan. Welcome back to the Sports Bar. Gene Battaglia with you. Somebody posting a view of the obstructed seat, and it's somebody sitting in their seat, and in front of them, wait a second, it's Mike Brable and Diana Rossini embracing. Did you see that one?
I did not.
It's like yes. Credit the person who actually came up with that today. Welcome back, Gene Battaglia with you. Yes, the Sports Bar. We try to keep it light here. As, again, this has gotten a second-day attraction. And I think Maggie, when she joined us on this yesterday, gets a sense, and she's got her finger on the pulse of things nationally, that, hey, there might be a little Bills fatigue. And for those outside aggregator wannabe influencers, let me get a video, AI sort of stuff, clickbait. New York Post putting up a headline saying it's a stadium disaster. Is it? It's not. No, I'm sorry. That's false. That's fake. Tim, I owe you an apology.
For what?
Well, because I just blew right through the stop sign earlier.
Oh.
Yes. I mean, are you ready or no?
Oh, yeah. No, I'm
okay.
real ready.
All right.
We going with it?
If you're new to the show, all right, my name's Gene. Years ago, at the now defunct Champs.
Yeah, bummer.
We're just very sad. I was doing a trivia night, and I met Tim. And Tim was a student at St. Bonaventure. And that's how we got to be friends, and you've been working, and you can blame me for this situation you're in today, right? So, Tim, I allow a few minutes to clear the dance floor, and he will give us his words of wisdom.
It's now time for Terrible Time Timmy's Terrible Take of the Day on WGR Rochester. WGR Rochester. It's Terrible Time Timmy.
That song hits so much worse at 5:30 in the afternoon.
No. Like, if the guy used to do the show with Tim, he'd be cracking a cold one. So I'm not advising you to do that.
No, not tonight.
It might hit better.
But I thought that maybe with the time change, I was evicted from this opportunity. But I'm glad that I do get to have this conversation, because I brought it up to you yesterday off air, and it has spiraled out of control now. There was a massive controversy in Little League Baseball.
Yep.
And the team out of Tulsa, Oklahoma was disqualified after winning the semifinal game to put them into the regional qualifier, which we had Rich Nightingale on a couple weeks ago. This is the fallout of that tournament.
Well, so this is Tulsa, Oklahoma, correct?
Yes.
And so what does mommy and daddy do?
They're ruining the lives of children.
Would they go to a judge, and then the local yokel judge somehow overturns it?
Yes. And now the update there is the team that won yesterday while we were on air, the team out of Waco, I think it was, They already left. They're not playing.
Yeah.
So the judge, I guess, will allow them to win by forfeit and supposedly advance them to the Little League World Series. But the Little League World Series has already made their decision. They're backing the team from Waco. They've invited them to Williamsport. They may already be there. And all this over 12-year-old children whose parents are trying to skirt the rules of the municipalities or whatever. You're not a resident of wherever specifically in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They have them signed up essentially illegally. And we've been doing this for as long as I've been alive, really, because back in the day, it was Danny Almonte. I believe Tulsa actually in the softball World Series this year was disqualified. So it's just bad seeds in bad areas doing the same nonsense. And this can't be the first or second time it's happened. But the fact that it's happening, adults in charge, ruining the lives of children for glory, which some of these kids are going to not even play varsity baseball in a few years because they're Little League All-Stars, quite literally.
Well, I mean, and this is the headline from Fox. Barred Little League team from Tulsa gets reinstated for chance to play in World Series. A temporary restraining order overrides Little League's final and binding decision. It's 12U. It's 12U.
For their parents to get on TV for 12 minutes on ESPN.
Mommy and daddy. We'll be watching the Little League World Series, and I feel incredibly conflicted because these are kids. And is this exploiting them, or is this giving them the once-in-a-lifetime opportunity? That's the conflicting part, right? For us, my gosh, what we have done when we were 11. Yeah. And when you make an error, do you have the emotional capabilities at that point, or what? It can be heartbreaking watching some of this stuff. Voyeuristic. I don't feel comfortable watching the Little League World Series. And you want to say, oh, it's wholesome, it's everything else. Bull. You know what it is? It's a time in the sports calendar where there's nothing going on. Hey, we have preseason football. If you're not ready for that, why don't we have this in other sports? Like we can't do like a Pop Warner version of this?
I did actually see flag football not too long ago, but
yeah,
it's not the same.
It's not the same. Like, baseball is a sport that is rooted in failure. It just is. You can go up the plate and just, hey, 7 out of times you're going to fail, but then you're considered great. Like, but you're an 11-year-old. Explain that, like, to them that when they strike out, oh, well, you know what? 7 out of 10 times that'll happen. I think it's disgusting, Tim.
It's really embarrassing. And the fact that, again, we've done this before, like in different circumstances with Danny Almonte, but it's just nuts that what measures adults will do to benefit themselves while exploiting literal children for the benefit of literally nobody but themselves for a minute, really.
Like it's not. Trust me when I say this. It's not a Tulsa thing. It's really just a country thing.
Yes, we've lost control.
Where I have here in Rochester, and I call a lot of Section 5 games and youth games, and some of the parenting bad behavior, and it just wears on officials. It wears on administrators. You don't have a right when that you have to restrain yourself, which is interesting. What's really interesting, Tim? I know you're poor. Do you have Apple TV? Do you get to watch Ted Lasso?
I do have access to Apple TV.
Okay. Okay. We got a disclaimer. We're going to talk about Ted Lasso here. Did you watch the season opener?
I've only seen the series opener.
Oh, okay.
I watched one episode.
Okay. I
just couldn't dive in.
Okay. That's it. Like all right. So like the new season's out, and I'm not spoiling the plot for anybody, but Ted Lasso is watching his son play soccer. And here's Ted Lasso, lovable guy. Yeah, that's his whole character. Yeah, gosh shucks, I'm Ned Flanders in real life. I'm Ted Lasso. Yeah, hey, while I'm back in Kansas City, I'm watching my son. Yay, yeah, there you go, Jimmy. Yeah, that's a goal. That's a goal. And then they take Jimmy out. The coach took him out.
Can't take out my kid?
Well, that was the whole problem. And then so the grandmother, and you could just see and like, I can appreciate the writing on that, because for somebody that in this series you would hold in high regard as a coach and hold in high regard as a man, and you think he's a good father, until you could see him going down the path where he's walking into the parking lot ready to confront the coach. And the coach just says, you've dealt with this a lot. In other words, to say, check yourself, and Ted Lasso checks himself. So it was just kind of a subtle, hey, this can happen to anybody, that your snowflake can be out there and he can do no wrong. You can get blinded by that easily. And raising your voice or writing the strongly worded email, it doesn't provide the results you want. It's just kind of making things harder for your kid, to be honest. Last call is for you, 585-866-4326. We got to get to this Amherst story. It's going to have a different feel next year for sure. My name is Gene Battaglia here at WGR Rochester.